If it wasn't for this, man, I'm sure I would have committed some random act of violence and been locked up for killing somebody. So thank you for saving someone's life, including my own.
Hi, fight fans, and welcome to another MMA Network video. Sean Strickland is a pure example of why one must not judge a book by its cover. Despite being a top UFC contender for years, nobody gave him enough credit and believed he has what it takes to become a UFC champion. He lacks one-punch knockout power, and judging by his antics and trash talk outside the octagon, it's no wonder that not many people were not taking him seriously. However, by beating one of the greatest middleweight champions of all time, Tarzan wrote one of the best underdog stories in UFC history, and now nobody can deny that he is an elite fighter who can back up his words in the octagon. We will look at Sean Strickland's career and how he went from being the biggest middleweight underdog to the top of the UFC's food chain. The ups and downs in his career. After scoring an incredible 13-0 record while fighting in local MMA organizations, 11 of which were finishes, Strickland finally appeared on the UFC's radar and was signed to make his promotional debut on March 15, 2014. In the UFC 271 event, Tarzan was welcomed in the UFC by Bubba McDaniel, a dangerous finisher not fond of leaving it to the judges' hands. After securing a side control position, Strickland gave the opponent an opening to get up, which was a false sense of security to fall into a trap. Sean fluidly took Bubba's back and got him into a tight rear naked choke, forcing him to tap. Despite primarily being a boxer, Strickland made a statement and proved that he is a complete fighter who can end the fight wherever it goes. In his second bout, Sean fought Luke Barnett, an undefeated prospect who was Chael Sonnen's first choice on the Tough Show. Although this fight lacked action and Sean's performance was not as impressive this time, he edged the Englishman on the judges' scorecards. Being 15-0 in MMA while running over his first two bouts in the UFC, it seemed that Strickland was destined to succeed, and it was a matter of time before his star would have started to shine. On February 22, 2015, Tarzan made his welterweight debut against Santiago Ponzinibbio, a finishing machine from Argentina with an impressive record of 19-2 up to that point. The enormous weight cut played a significant role in this bout, as the Argentinian was the better fighter that night, causing Strickland his first professional loss. Sean's first loss did not prevent him from aiming to achieve his goal. The American redeemed himself by winning his next three fights before being matched against Kamaru Usman, one of the greatest welterweights ever. Kamaru was the aggressor in that bout as he kept the American on his back foot, pressuring him against the cage. He implemented his superior wrestling to neutralize Sean's stand-up and kept punishing him with heavy ground and pound strikes. Strickland's game plan failed as he kept backing down while trying to catch Usman with a counterstrike and was too worried about the takedowns, which prevented him from entirely focusing on his striking. Usman won that fight via unanimous decision, and Tarzan learned that in order to compete at the highest level, he had to work and improve his takedown defense and grappling skills overall. Although Sean returned to the octagon against the dangerous striker Court McGee and won that fight unanimously, he was stopped by Eliezer Zelansky dos Santos next, who performed one of the best capoeira kicks in the UFC, earning a highlight reel for the ages. At this point, Sean Strickland had a mixed UFC record of 6-3, losing two of his last three fights. Even though he was a good fighter, it seemed he wasn't good enough to break the rankings and chase the title. During this time, nobody could believe that Strickland had what it takes to beat the top contenders in this division and earn a shot for the title. However, being the underdog with nothing to lose made him more dangerous, and Sean was ready to leave his losses behind that could serve him as a learning experience. By the way, if you've enjoyed our video so far, please subscribe and help us reach our goal of 1,000 subs. Back on the winning track. On October 27, 2018, Sean Strickland was back to action against Nordine Talib, an MMA veteran with notable victories over Li Jingyang and Eric Silva. After a beautiful 1-2 combo in the second round, the Canadian was wobbled, and Strickland delivered a solid overhand right that dropped Talib down. The Canadian showed toughness and determination, so he got up to his feet despite visibly hurt. Tarzan smelled blood and pushed forward with a barrage of punches without giving the opponent time to recover. After absorbing too many shots, Talib was knocked down with a big right hand, and Sean went after him for the kill. After consecutive ground and pound strikes, the referee was forced to stop the fight and declare Strickland the winner. The American kept the momentum and went on a 6-fight winning streak, including notable victories against Brendan Allen, Uriah Hall, and Jack Hermansson. By beating these top contenders and doing tons of trash talk on the microphone, Strickland slowly but surely started to become a fan's favorite, and it looked like he was a win or two away from earning a title shot. He was then matched against Alex Pereira, a former Glory middleweight and light heavyweight champion and the first and only kickboxer to have held Glory titles in 2 weight classes simultaneously. Instead of closing the distance and mixing his grappling with striking to avoid Pereira's power, Sean's spite and ego got the better of him as he decided to go toe-to-toe against the Brazilian. Let's not forget that Sean Strickland is a solid Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, and he could have used his grappling credentials to neutralize Pereira's technique and power on the feet. However, the American had a difficult plan that night to keep the fight standing, a decision that backfired in the worst possible way. Pereira saw an opening and delivered his signature left hook that knocked Strickland down, forcing the referee to stop the fight. To stand and exchange strikes with one of the best kickboxers the UFC has ever seen, some would call it a bold and courageous move, but others would call it foolish. Sean's winning streak was broken, and his name was out of the title picture, at least for now. In the next bout, Tarzan faced Jared Cannonier, a powerful striker with notable victories over Anderson Silva, Jack Hermansson, and Derek Brunson. Jared appeared slightly the better fighter in a fight that lacked action as he edged Sean on the judges' scorecards, causing him his 2nd loss in a row. For someone who was a fight away from the title, now Strickland was on a 2-fight losing streak, and becoming a champion seemed further than ever. However, Sean was not done yet, and redeemed himself with a gangster move that deserves respect and admiration. He accepted a fight on a few weeks' notice against one of the most dangerous athletes in the division, Nassourdine Imavov, replacing Kelvin Gastelum in a light heavyweight bout on January 14, 2023. Despite lacking a full camp and preparation, the American showed Imavov why there are levels in this game. He was the superior fighter overall and won the striking exchange to win a unanimous decision against a fighter on a 3-fight winning streak. On July 1st, 2023, Tarzan was back to action against Abusupyan Magomedov, a dangerous Russian fighter with an impressive record of 24-4. The thing was, Sean had nothing to gain but everything to lose in this fight. Strickland kept to his fundamentals and avoided all powerful shots thrown at him in the first round. He gained momentum in the second and started battering Magomedov's face with strikes. That round turned out to be a one-sided pounding, and Sean was the one swinging the hammer as he overpowered the Russian in the final minute, forcing the referee to wave the fight off. Although Strickland won 2 fights in a row against solid competitors, nobody could believe that he had what it takes to become a champion. He could beat the top 5 fighters, but he had back-and-forth victories that made many fans skeptical about his ability to hold the belt one day. The UFC Middleweight Championship. Since Dricus du Plessis was injured and unable to fight for the title, on September 10, 2023, the UFC gave Strickland the opportunity to fight Israel Adesanya for the UFC middleweight belt on the line. Israel Adesanya is arguably the best striker who ever fought in the UFC and one of the best middleweights of all time. Keeping the fight standing against him is not an intelligent thing to do, and he has been a complex puzzle to solve for years. Sean Strickland had only 2 months since his last fight, which was clearly insufficient time to prepare for someone like Adesanya. The Nigerian-born fighter, or as Sean liked to call him, the Chinaman, was destroying everyone in the division, becoming one of the most dominant UFC champions. Strickland, on the other hand, was a huge underdog whom nobody believed had a chance to win against Izzy. Sean should have learned from his mistakes in the past and practiced his wrestling and grappling for this fight to avoid another Alex Pereira scenario. However, as stubborn as ever, the American decided to keep the fight standing against the most dangerous striker in the division. As a surprise to many, Strickland landed a picture-perfect 1-2 combo in the first round, dropping Izzy to the canvas momentarily. Tarzan followed up with strikes, hammering Israel's head with heavy shots. The second and third rounds were close, but Sean was the aggressor, keeping Izzy on his back foot while using fundamental boxing to hurt him with shots. The referees gave these rounds to Strickland, but Izzy had momentum in the fourth, stealing that round from the American. The fifth round was all Sean Strickland, constantly tagging Izzy with strikes, who received more shots than 50 Cent up to this point. In the closing seconds of the fight, Sean was literally screaming at Izzy's face, challenging him to a brawl, which he didn't accept. But at the end of the day, it didn't matter. Sean Strickland has done it. He did the unthinkable, beating arguably the greatest middleweight champion of all time. By displaying such a flawless performance against such a dominant champion like Izzy, Strickland proved that nobody should be counted out in the UFC, since even the biggest underdog has a chance to win the world title. From a humble gatekeeper to an extraordinary world champion, Sean Strickland's journey reads like a modern-day fairy tale. His remarkable ascent to the title of UFC middleweight champion serves as a testament to the unpredictability of the fight game, where any contender can rise to glory on a fateful night, especially within this echelon of competition. Above all, the collective desire was to witness fresh talent invigorating this division alongside a captivating underdog narrative that would inspire generations to come. Sean Strickland's remarkable story has not only fulfilled that wish, but also etched his name in the annals of UFC history as a symbol of determination and triumph against all odds. And what do you guys think? Do you believe that Sean Strickland could beat Adesanya? Who would you like to see Sean fighting next? Leave your thoughts in the comments. And if you like to watch more videos like this, please punch that subscribe button as we are getting close to reaching 1,000 subs.